Welcome back, everybody, to Hashtag Voice of the City. Today is episode 5, which marks the halfway point through the series, and it is very special because we have the one and only Colorado Captain with us.
What's up, you guys?
And Israel, as always.
Hey, how's it going?
Introduce yourself to the audience. For the people who do not know you already, tell us a little about what you do and the work that you came up doing.
Yeah, so I'm the Colorado Captain. I am a professional cosplayer and charity worker. I dress up like Captain America, who's one of my all-time favorite superheroes. And what I do is I drive all over the Denver metro area and the United States, and I promote, protect, and encourage charity, civil rights, human rights, and especially children's causes, just all over the nation. And the whole idea is, I always like to tell people my tagline is kind of like, I'm just some guy in a suit, but like if I'm talking to you, then maybe that means that I managed to make you smile. Because I believe in the power of a smile is a beautiful thing, and I think that, as much as I sound like Captain America is like peace, love, and war, like make it all good, the truth of the matter is that I think love is a very powerful thing, and it all starts with making somebody happy, and that's what the Pearly Whites are all about, with the smile. So.
That's very true. That's very true. So what inspired you to do this work? Because it's not something that every day somebody would just go up and say, I want to don this costume and become something greater.
Well, I was in a motorcycle accident, and I suffered severe head trauma. When I woke up, I thought I was Captain... No, I'm just kidding. I was in a pretty serious motorcycle wreck back in 2014 when I was being cut out of my leather uniform. Because, motorcyclists, when you're on a cross-country motorcycle ride, just for any sort of reason, even when you're just on the highway, you wear leathers to protect your body. But, the paramedics rules that if you're bleeding from somewhere, they're not going to take the time to very carefully remove your clothes. Out comes the scissors, and they slice up your clothes so that they can get to the point of origin for that injury. Well, so they cut me out of my original leathers, and I woke up in the hospital with a bunch of screws in my arm and stuff like that. But I made a full recovery, and I was getting ready to get back on the road. I didn't have anything to wear. And at the time, being the actor, vagabond, you name it that I was at the time, just kidding, I still am, I was kind of looking for some work, and I got involved with a local company that kind of sent out like copyright Disney, Princess Ariel, right? Mm-hmm. Or The Little Mermaid, comes to your birthday party and says, "Good job, Tiffany, happy birthday." Well, sometimes you would send out superheroes, and this company, awesome company called Wands and Wishes, they send out beautiful occasions for people. They would send out a superhero. So they called me one day, and they're like, "Matt, we got a gig for you. We need you to come and be Captain America." I was like, "Okay." So I show up on the motorcycle, and they throw me in this suit. And it's, just this, cheap, pretty darn cheap, super cheesy Avengers 1, blue, whatever. But it's cool because it's a gig and, people love Captain America, right? Uh-huh. So I put on the suit and I realize, oh, crap. All I've got to drive to Little Billy's birthday party is my motorcycle. What do I do? Well, I took this trash can lid of a shield and I took off my belt and I strapped it around my waist and I said, "Okay, God, please don't knock me off my motorcycle as I fly down the road 65 miles an hour." So I made it to the party. I wished little Billy a happy birthday, and I left. And the whole way driving there and back, I was getting people honking at me. There were people shouting stuff, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I am driving like an asshole. Sorry, language. But it suddenly dawned on me, oh wait, it looks like Captain America is driving down the street on a motorcycle. I was like, that's kind of fun. It makes people smile. And I'm a big goof with absolutely no self-respect whatsoever. So I thought, okay, if I need new motorcycle leathers, maybe there's some random place on the internet where someone's making a motorcycle jacket that looks like Captain America. Sure enough, there was. Now, this is not by any means a real riding jacket. This was a very cute thing that a kid could buy, right? Mm-hmm. But I felt inspired. So I started working on it, and slowly but surely I put together this kind of cool, leathery, Captain America-esque suit. So then I went on down to Hot Topic, and I bought myself a Think Geek backpack that looked like Captain America's shield, and I just drove, I drove to work every day, dressed as Captain America.
Wow.
And people started liking it, and people started posting here and there, like, "Hey, have you seen that guy driving around that kind of looks like Captain America?" And I thought, this is super cool. I got kind of tired of people thinking that I was just doing it to feel cool about myself, which it kind of was, because I was like, yeah, look at me, I'm this cool guy just like Captain America. That made you smile. But I've never really been about that. My whole life, I've always just wanted to make other people happy, regardless of how. So this all kind of culminated one day when this company that I was working for got contacted by Make-A-Wish Foundation. And I got to go visit a little boy who wasn't supposed to survive the year. He was fighting cancer, and he was putting up a really good fight. So I went down and I visited this kid, and I had a spare little, kind of toy Captain America shield, and I engraved his name in it, and his nickname was the Unbreakable Jack Flash. I'll never forget this kid, because the whole time I was talking to him, he had a stiff upper lip, right? He would just do the pouty face, and he'd be like, I'm tough. And I'd be like, yeah, you are, Jackson. And the whole time, like, the family loved it. It was this really big party, and the kid thought it was great. And at the end of it, the dad came to me in tears, and he said, do you do this all the time? And I had to look him in the eye and say, well, no, but I'm thinking about it. And that was kind of what started it. And I just, from that moment on, I knew that I couldn't just do this big flashy thing if it wasn't for something bigger. And that's where this idea of Colorado Captain doing not, hey, look at me, but instead doing, hey, look at me, have you met this charity? Because they're doing cool stuff. Wow. And that's kind of how it's evolved now. And now we're almost 3 years running, and I'm just very honored that people even pay me the time of day.
It's powerful. That is a powerful origin story indeed. So from a very practical standpoint, why would you say it's beneficial to help others? Everyday people walking the streets of Colorado, or nationwide for that fact, why is it beneficial for them to just step out of their everyday lives to go, maybe donate to a charity or do something that helps society in general?
Yeah, So there's a quote by one of the greatest men that has lived in recent memory. Not well known, of course. A little no name by the name of Martin Luther King Jr. No, but he had a great quote, and it says, "Make a career of humanity. You commit yourself to the noble struggle of equal rights, because you will make a better person of yourself, a greater nation of your country, and a finer world to live in." Wow. That quote speaks to me so hard. Every day, because while these words, like, they're especially relevant to the institution and subsequent vigilance of the civil rights movement, but they also tug upon a very deep and basic heartstring that we share as human beings, which is that we want to matter, and we don't just want to matter in a purely selfish way. We want to matter because we want to feel love. We want to love and then be loved in return, and that's just at the core of I don't care who we are. I know it's there inside of you. And so you find yourself when you look at how you can help someone else. I don't know who told me this, but I think it was actually the founder of one of the very charities that I support. And he said, I wake up in the morning and I start the day by reminding myself that no matter who I interact with, I'll go into every conversation thinking this: how can I help you? Like, how can I help you achieve whatever it is you're talking to me about? How can I help you today? Whether that's just being like pat on the back, like, yeah, man, like, I get you, but if you ever need to just talk to me, that's cool. Or it can be something as crazy as driving all over the nation and asking people to donate to pediatric cancer or donate to Syrian refugees or whatever. Yes. And it's not all money. It's not a money game. It's an emotional game, because you are who you are, and that's profound, because there is no other person like you. Yeah. So own it and give it to others, because that's the greatest gift that you can ever give with an open and honest heart.
I would say I really appreciate that, and just the message that you're spreading, and especially in the times of like holidays, coming around too, and kind of crazy that's the conversation we're having as coming into Thanksgiving, being thankful, for family, friends, and those that are still alive, and even going into Christmas, that when you spoke on wanting to give that joy, I feel like that was my thing with like the holidays, was I want to see other people smile. Oh, yeah. And like, even not just in the holidays, even outside, like on a day-to-day basis, it's like, how can you make that other person smile? And sometimes
that we could all do year round. And also that quote that you have said reminded me of another one that just popped into my mind. If someone wants to be first, they must be a servant to all. And basically, that's a very fundamental quote, a foundation model in our day-to-day lives. If we really want to improve ourselves, improve the world, we should also just try to help others, really, in a very basic sense. But I want to ask you, with the comic book industry at its all-time peak, and I know it has affected me, how has the comic book industry influenced you? And do you think dedicating some time to escapism is beneficial, like for an everyday person, dedicating some time to whether it be reading comics or watching a movie? Do you think that's beneficial?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm not just saying that because I dress up like superhero. I mean, it's a little bit, but no, escapism. That's such a It's kind of a button word for me, right? Because like no one wants to be accused of like, oh, you're such an escapist. Like all you do is just goof off all day, right? Like nothing's serious with you. And admittedly, I'm a huge goof, but it's totally valid because it is a way that we connect, right? And when you look at that, it's so fascinating. It comes down to this for me. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. If you look at the stories being told right now, right, they're very much about upsetting the status quo. Okay, so they're both a return to and an examination of what is right and what is wrong and whether or not any one of us is valid in our judgment of it. Okay, but comics, movies, you pick your poison, right? Escapism gives you this moment.
Yes.
And you can look outside of yourself and you can see something better. Not necessarily bigger, but just better. You can imagine, you can feel possibility again, because sometimes you lose that. It's the basis of hope. Comics, appropriately, right? Superhero stories offer you a window into a world that is beautiful because you see the struggles of your own life mirrored in a quote unquote hero's life, and you realize that they are no different than you. So if they, with all of their power, right, all of their heroic deeds and stuff, if they can only do just as much or feel just the same as you or I, then by God, there's nothing we can't do. Then we really are heroes of our own making.
Yes.
So, I mean, I think escapism is super cool because it teaches you a lot.
Yes.
But it also gives you a chance to goof off. Whatever. I mean,
With that being said, who is your favorite superhero?
Yikes. Don't tell Tony this. No, so it started off as Iron Man. He was a super solid guy for me. Like, granted, I'm a little bit more of a cinematic Marvel Universe kind of fan, right? Like, I always loved comics too when I was a kid, but this golden age of movie making that we live in, whatever, Iron Man was my boy. But then
Captain America came
this
along.
Weird thing happened where Captain America came along, and it was The Winter Soldier, the second movie they made about Captain America, where
Great favorite one.
it was so good. It was really a turning point, I think, for Marvel in a lot of ways, because they realized that they had this character that could be more than a caricature. He could actually be a real guy. Because I originally was like, Captain America, like this idiot that wears the American flag, like who? Okay, America, whatever, right? Right? But no, it turned out that he was this person that defied all of your expectations. He wasn't afraid to be solid in who he is, and he unabashedly stood by what he believed is right. But he constantly had that challenged, just like we do every moment of the day. Like, if there's something we believe is right, there's one thing I've noticed, and not to get political or anything, but we live in our times, right?
Yeah.
We're constantly waking up in a world where something you took for granted as being like, oh yeah, well, we totally worked on that, right? Like, civil rights happened, right? Like, human rights happened, like, whatever. You name it. You wake up and you hear someone saying something that you know is just wrong in your core, and you realize you still have to actively fight for what's right on a regular basis. Just because someone else fought a battle before you doesn't mean that was a war that ever stopped. You know, it doesn't mean
carry on the battle.
You have to carry on. You have
In
to.
the sense, it's like they let us at the table just because we're at the table doesn't mean they still ain't having those conversations behind our back or whispering over. Man, I guess for me, if I could talk about my superhero,
Do it.
I just like really relate. Like, I feel like I do have an angry side of me, but like deep down, like, he's very, peaceful, and, he doesn't like to use his anger, but he knows when to use it. Because sometimes, even in this like time of trying to figure things out and seeing the way the times are, I feel like my anger is I turn into the Hulk when I do my music. So when I turn into that artist, that's me fighting back. But I have a question for you.
Wait. Okay, since we're all talking about superheroes, my favorite superhero has to be. I'm more of a Batman guy. I'm very methodical and careful for my plans. My backup plans have backup plans, and I'm very precise and strategic with things. And I feel like Batman is just the leader. He could take out the whole Justice League, man. Come on.
I was like, did we just start the Justice League?
Well, listen. Marvel versus DC. Let's not get into this.
Let's not get into this. Okay, go ahead with the question. Go ahead.
So I was gonna ask you. So with you bringing people to all those organizations and nonprofits, for everyday people, even like myself, what ways can they contribute, and what nonprofits and places could they reach out to?
Yeah. So a big question that I think a lot of people have is, or like a hurdle they have, is, well, I just don't know where I would want to put my energy, right? Like, I don't know what can I contribute to any given situation, because someone just may not feel like they're that special. First of all, you don't have to be quote unquote special. You are you, right? Like, I don't mean to get all Mr. Rogers up in here, but the truth is that you are unique. So what makes you unique? Well, if there's something that you love, right? So you mentioned earlier, like, you get into your music, right? And you Hulk out for your music. Yeah. That's your passion, man. But you got to harness it, right? That's the Bruce Banner side of things, if we're getting comic-y with it, right? Yeah. Bruce Banner, who is the alternative ego of the Hulk, is this more mild-mannered, like, competitive? Wow, I can't say that word. He contemplates his decisions before he makes them, where the Hulk just goes. And the symbiosis of those two creates this awesome thing. If there's something you love, and it's especially if it's like a guilty pleasure for you, flip it. Flip that thing. And you take it and you make it a self-serving thing for you, or take that thing that is self-serving and you turn it into something that's about others. Because that's the epitome of generosity. I mean, that's at the heart of every nonprofit. I realized, I'll use myself as an example, I realized that as an actor, I really love having attention. I love making people look at me, because I'm like, look, I'm doing the thing! And then people would either be like, you're an idiot, or they'd be like, cool, like, do more of that. But I knew that if I was good at making people look at me, I should try and do it for something. How do I make that about others? So then I turned it into hey, good, you're all looking at me. Now, what about this other thing? Have you looked at it? Because that's a cool thing that we can all put our energy into, and then we can do it together. And then it's a community, and then it grows and grows and grows.
I like that.
So dive into your community by being selfish. Look at yourself. Know what makes you the most happy or gives you the most high, and then take that high and figure out how you can give that high to someone else.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's deep.
I know, that got me thinking.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like, what's a passion? Like,
no, I get it. Like, definitely, if you're a musical artist, flip that musical ego and help it to serve others. If you're an actor, do as you did. I'm also an actor, and before I go on to what I was going to say, can I ask, as a fellow actor, any advice? Do you have any advice for young actors out here? Because it's not very many in. I don't know, it's just not a very well-known path in the nation that I feel like a lot of people go up and take. So for the very few actors out there, do you have any quick tips for them?
Don't do what I did, because I'm not a very successful actor.
Yes.
No. We definitely, you got a lot of good tools at your disposal these days. I can't tell you how many people I hear that say, boy, if I would have had the internet at your age, or if I would have had YouTube, or if I would have had XYZ. And even then, it's becoming an oversaturated market. But if there's one thing that holds true right now, I think it kind of goes back to the whole finding your passion and figuring out how to make it about others. Because as an actor, that's what you do, is you take the deepest parts of who you are, and then you use those parts of who you are to identify with a role, a character, right? And so by finding the truth of a character, something that you can latch onto as an individual, that's how you then bring that character to life. So you do the same thing with your career. You look at the things, you practice, you work hard. Like, we all can have the same gumption, but after that gumption comes the direction and the focus. So you can help find your focus and direct yourself by, getting into community specifically. I'm a big fan of community theater. You won't always have an amazing experience, but that's just it. Is it because it's community theater, you're getting involved with people that you might never meet. And there are people that you think would never do theater that might be there. Like, maybe it's just a passion play for them, right? Yeah. But, Joe Schmo up at the top of the skyscraper who signs all the checks for the important people might take a liking to you and say, oh, well, hey, I'm friends with the person down at the Center for Performing Arts. Do you want me to put in a good word for you? I mean, so, like, there's networking, but there's human networking is what I'm saying, right? Like, you share a friendship with someone. A genuine experience. That's exactly what I'm getting at. Thank you for letting me talk way too long and then summarizing what I said. Thank you.
I definitely get it. As you're speaking, it just speaks to me, because I remember being in theater myself and making them genuine connections. And I always say this, but we're always in a digital age, and it's so easy to make artificial connections. Yeah. But when you make a genuine human connection, it's something very different and unique in itself.
Totally.
So leading into that, will you tell us about your experience with cosplay?
Yeah. So cosplay is pretty beautiful. It's a celebration of a person's sort of artistic talent, or not so much just the talent, but like the fan, right? It's a celebration of the fan, because you are taking what you love, and then you're liking it so much that you want to take whatever, you know, unique thing, whether it's cosplaying a character that you kind of look like, or cosplaying a character that you would never even dream of identifying with on a physical level, but they speak to you as a person, right? They speak to your spirit, to your heart. Cosplay. There's a great quote that I heard as a little thing running around the community where it says, "I cosplay because I like them, not because I look like them." And you meet people who share the same joy of something as you do, and then that becomes a shared fandom, a shared community. My experience of cosplaying around the country has just been overwhelmingly positive, because there's so many good people
and communities and Comic-Cons and experiences,
and you're all there to be happy with one another, right? You're all there to lift one another up, and you're not there to just place judgment on any person. You're there to say, fun. Hey, like, we enjoy this thing. Let's just enjoy this thing together.
Do it together. Yeah, the community.
It's that genuine interaction over a commonality, and I love that.
So have you been to the Denver Comic-Con?
I have. I've been there for several years now.
Okay.
Yeah, well, several. I think it's been around for 8. But
So with that, do you have any funny or interesting stories to tell us, whether that be in the Denver Comic-Con or any Comic-Con nationwide? Is there anything funny that happened?
Okay, like I'm laughing already just
thinking about it.
But yeah, so there's one really awesome instance that came to mind. It's funny you said that I kind of started with my first Comic-Con at Denver Comic-Con, and back then I didn't have nearly the cool gadgetry and the good suit that I have now and all this stuff, because it's been years in the making. But you know, at my first Comic-Con experience, it was at Denver, and you know, the cops are kind of looking at this guy who's dressed in a costume and riding his motorcycle around, and like, what's this guy gonna do? Or am I gonna have to talk to this guy? You know, and you're like, oh man, like the popo is looking at me. I don't know, right? You know, and so you go from that. You know, you fast forward to last year, where I was at my first New York Comic-Con, which is now I think the largest attendance for a Comic-Con. Possibly it's either the first or the second, right next to San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah.
And I roll up and I'm like, I don't know, I just want to try and make some people smile, right? Maybe they've never seen Captain America on a motorcycle. Turns out that was kind of true. And people really loved it, and people were like rushing out into the street to try and get a picture of Captain America. Now, you know, granted, in New York, they're not driving super fast, but they do drive a little crazy. And there's cops like blowing whistles and trying to control crowds and everything like this. And I'm thinking, oh man, if I think the cops in Denver are tough, the New York cops are going to eat me for breakfast. So I roll up as Captain America, and I get stopped at this light, and there's a huge crowd of people on the right of me. And I hear, it always is that one person that goes, hey, look, that's Captain America on a motorcycle, man. And all the cameras come out, and all the phones come out, and people start pressing on into the street and blocking traffic and stuff. And so the cop starts walking my way, and there's a taxi behind me wailing on his horn, like wondering if I'm going to move. And I'm thinking, all right, this is it. I'm going to be told that I have to park it, and I can't drive around the con anymore. I can't try and have these cool interactions with the kids and stuff. The cop walks up to me, he looks at me, and then he looks over at the cabbie, and he goes, all right, let's move it, buddy. Captain America's not here for you. And he makes the cabbie move, and he says, listen, Cap, I'm going to have you pull up right here so that these people aren't in the way, okay? Wow. And I go, are you sure? Like, is it okay for me to park this here? And he goes, man, you think a New York cop is going to tow Captain America? Get over here.
That's so cool.
That was the best thing. And then the guy ended up taking a selfie with me. So,
that's so cool.
You know, I don't care who you are. There's that universal love of something that brings people together. And that's...
I feel like it's a very important lesson in that story. I mean, regardless of where you are or who you are, it's very wrong just to place judgment, because that universal love is real.
Totally.
Everybody has it within them. It's just a matter of bringing it out.
Yeah, we're all people. We all start as human beings, and then it moves on from there.
Yes. So with us closing up a little bit, first off, where can they find your work? Where can they keep up with you and updated with the Colorado Captain himself?
Gotcha. Well, when I'm not driving out around on my Harley, I'm going to be all over the social media stuff. Got 1 or 2 little videos on YouTube. And I encourage people to check me out. My website is coloradocaptain.com. Okay. And there's links to all the charities that I both support and promote. This year, all of my charitable donations are going directly to a charity called CAP for Kids, which is an acronym for Cosplayers Against Pediatric Cancer, which is a mission that I believe very much in, and they support families up to $10,000. They pay their bills so that they don't have to worry about working a 40-hour week and then going and visiting their kid in the hospital while they're fighting for their lives.
Yeah.
Right? But I mean, we also promote other charities that, like the International Rescue Committee, Hope Kids. Like, there's a lot of people, veterans, through the Tour of Honor. There's a lot of stuff that Colorado Captain's doing on the regular basis, and I encourage folks to go check me out. Facebook, Instagram, I'm all over that stuff. But
yeah, I definitely encourage you guys to go check that out. It's a lot of great things that you're supporting and causes that you are really driving forward. With that being said, Israel, where can they find the links and information to the Denver Opportunity Youth Initiative?
So they can find us at Instagram at OYDenver.
So, Colorado Captain, one last question for you. The man himself, do you have any inspiring words for the citizens in this nation with such a turbulent times that we're living in?
Sorry, I'm pausing for dramatic effect. No. If there's anything that I want people to try and take to heart, it's that no matter how small you feel, the love inside of you is bigger and louder than any blowhorn that hate or disappointment or fear can be thrown at you. So let your love shine and don't be ashamed of it, because I have felt that love clear from Denver to New York and all the states in between. You're not alone, and you never have been. So press into one another, because it's all love.
With that being said, I'd like to end this episode with a quote from Stan Lee, who lived from 1922 to 2018. He famously said, "I guess one person can make a difference." Once again, thank you guys for listening to the podcast. Share it around if you enjoyed. And this has been
# Voice of the